Well, good morning, everybody. As we have people coming in, we're going to get started. All right. Again, I'm Valerie King with the Valerie King team at Keller Williams Realty. And Happy New Year again. We're going to keep Happy New Year all week this week, right? And Today I want to talk about New Year's resolutions and why we need to stop making resolutions, right? I love New Year's, the festivities of it and the fireworks and it brings about newness and opportunity to kind of start fresh, right? Which is great. Um, and so people kind of get excited about that and decide that they want new year, new you, right? um, Without kind of considering the fact that it's really hard to make changes, right? To make real, sustainable changes. And New Year's resolutions kind of puts you in this trap of believing that you're going to be able to do anything and everything just because we're starting a new year, right? So I want to shift your mindset a little bit, right? And for those of you that has resolutions, like this is not a knock per se, right? But what we want to do is shift it a little bit because we want to shift from resolutions, right, that are usually short term and usually fall away, right, to smart, attainable goals, right, that you can set for your life. So, according to Time Magazine and some other sources, as many as 80% of people fail to keep their New Year's resolutions by February. Um, Honestly, most people by the second week, right, have already fallen off. Only 8% stick with them the entire year, right? And my guess is that it's because they've shifted mindset from a resolution to actual goals, right? Um, some say that New Year's resolutions can be psychologically unrealistic and difficult to carry out because they typically involve three wishes, right? We have the wish to stop avoiding something, like getting rid of all the junk food in the junk mail in your inbox, and wanting to clear things out. Um, the wish to stop doing something that makes you feel good, like eating, drinking, smoking. And then the wish to start doing something that doesn't come naturally to you, like journaling, expressing gratitude, or exercising. Um, you know, Wishes are just that, right? They're wishes, and they're things that don't necessarily aren't necessarily things that you would do normally, right? So the wish to stop avoiding something, while in theory wanting to avoid something that sounds good, right? Because avoiding something up front may decrease your anxiety, right? And your distress. But the truth is that in the long term, avoiding something that you should be doing actually increases your stress and anxiety, right? So by avoiding the thing that you should be doing, you're actually increasing your stress versus biting the bullet, enduring the short-term stress so that for the long term you've been able to relieve that, right? The wish to stop doing something that makes you feel good. So you stop doing the thing that makes you feel good, like relaxing at the end of the day to have a drink. What do you do instead, right? And that's the challenge, right? What are you doing instead when you're not feeling good? So the thing that makes you feel good, that's releasing the dopamines, right? That's allowing you to feel good. We haven't replaced or haven't thought about what's replacing helping you feel good when you're not feeling good. And then the wish to start doing something that doesn't come naturally to you. I mean, it's like swimming against a current, right? You're trying to do something that you've never done before, that you don't usually do, don't usually make the time to do, and haven't come up with a system or a way to um, kind of put it in flow with who you are and what you already do, right? And so, when we come upon these wishes and haven't figured out how to make them work for us, they become that, just that, wishes that never come to fulfillment. So everybody here like have fallen to this trap of resolutions that, we're wishing that we can do this and then find out within, month that this doesn't quite work out the way that we hoped. Am I the only one? Oh,
We
we
all
gonna
do
talk today.
it. Uh, so I agree with you. I agree with the statement. I don't make a plan. I usually start November, December, like I was doing my weight loss thing, and then you're gonna have uh holidays and events, and you're gonna be thrown off track. So you try to just balance. It's always about balance, trying to find the best balance in my step. But yeah, it resonates absolutely. But doesn't mean you can't kick it back up sooner or later. You got to have a plan to
Oh,
kick it back.
absolutely not. We're gonna talk about that, right? Absolutely not. This isn't saying not to try to achieve anything at the beginning of the year. Not at all. That's exactly the opposite, in fact, right? Um, let's see. So here's some reasons why people might not want to make New Year's resolutions, right? One is that with some resolutions, people are setting these unattainable goals, right? You're setting goals that you can reach by 2020, by 2030, right? That we need, as you're trying to look at 2024, right? They can often mean set goals that are too high and unattainable for years, right? So when you're looking at these goals, I want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. Well, that's great. And for some, it's going to take a lifestyle changes, right? Lifestyle changes that for some may need to happen over time, right? The saying goes that people often um, underestimate what they can do in 5 years, but they overestimate what they can do in 1 year, right? And so setting these goals that are just so lofty that when you look up, you realize, you know what, I don't really know how this is going to work, how I'm going to make this happen. And then they fall off, right? You fall off because you feel like you haven't made enough progress towards the goal, when in fact, the goal that you set is a goal that should have been spread out over 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years, right? And understanding that. Overemphasis on the results. Resolutions can be too global and vague to be turned into motivated actions, right? So you're wanting to obtain results, and yet the activities that are leading up to those results are like to want to achieve this like result, right? Is too vague. Like I want to world hunger. Like I'm like, you know, while that's really a lofty example, it's something as far as wanting to kind of reach this goal. What are the actual steps, right? That you're trying to take to reach this goal, right? So oftentimes, say I want to lose weight. Okay, great. Or I want to lose 20 pounds. Even that's kind of too vague because we haven't given it a time frame. We haven't given it steps to kind of make that make sense. And so by making your goals too vague, it impacts your motivation to be able to do it. So that excitement we were talking about earlier with the New Year's resolutions. I found this picture and it was just adorable, right? Because you're just excited to start the new year and to see what changes you can make. So you have this creates this kind of short-term perspective, and yet making resolutions at the start of the year, um, like that excitement can wear off pretty quickly, right? Like this, that only lasts for so long. So how do we extend that excitement to wanting to make real changes, right? We want to go from the newness to this is something that I'm committing to over the long term, whether I'm excited about it or whether it's a good day or bad day. This is something that I truly want to get done, right? So we want to shift the short-term perspective to having a more long-term reach. Any of these resonating with anybody?
I love the
Hi, good
smart
morning.
goal. Yeah.
Lily?
No, I was gonna say, can you repeat that again? Sorry.
With the short-term perspective, so you go into the new year all excited, as you should, right? And yet that excitement and wanting to create resolutions around that excitement um, creates some type of oftentimes short-term perspective, right? Like because I'm excited in the moment, this sounds really great. This resolution sounds great. This is something I really want to do, I've been wanting to do. And yet, um, because you're creating out of this excitement and not necessarily looking at it in the long term for when you're not excited anymore, right? Um, you have this kind of short-term perspective that you've not translated to a long-term, right, vision.
So, yeah, so like, before the year started, I was like, okay, 2024 is coming. I have to get my things together. I have to get my mind right. I have to accomplish A, B, and C. And then now we're here. And then I'm like, well, okay. And then I'm like, okay, so where's like all the excitement? But I think that could also be due to the circumstances, right? Where, the environment where we at, also what surrounds us, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of
Sure.
negativity happening, bad vibes, and now, you were walking on a straight path, now you're over here taking curves, it just throws things off a little bit. So that's what's currently happening to me. But I do always give myself the reminder, like, well, you know what, Lily, you're a boss. You got to get it together, get yourself together, put your mind right. And, I'm always consistently pushing myself. It's a little hard at times,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
definitely working on that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Lily, because I think you just kind of proved my point. Because when you're talking about resolutions, oftentimes they're kind of in this silo, like these are the things I'm going to do. I'm going to take on the year, right? And you're not thinking about the fact that life is still going to happen, right? So, for the ups and the downs, that's everybody, right? Life is going to happen. You have this great day, New Year's Day is awesome, and then the next day, you know, tragedy strikes, right? Like that is a consistent possibility for all of us, right? So, how can we shift these resolutions that can be easily deterred when life happens to more long-term sustainable, right? So, another reason why New Year's resolutions aren't fantastic is because it creates this pressure to change, right? So, the tradition of making the resolutions can make people feel like they need to be pressured to make changes that may or may not be necessary, right? Just to what fit in or you know to please, right? So it creates having to make resolutions makes people feel like there's this change. Well, I need to, everybody's making resolutions, everybody's doing something new. Do I need, I need to make this change, I need to make some change. So, and so it creates this unnecessary pressure to change, right? And then there's that lack of motivation, and we're, kind of talking about that. People might not be motivated to change anything in their life in the new year, right? What is pulling you? What is kind of calling you to actually make these changes that you feel that are needed to be made, right? Without having a reason or a why behind it, the need kind of goes away pretty quickly, or the desire to make those changes goes away pretty quickly, right? Public discussion around these New Year's resolutions, right? People might not want to have to discuss their personal goals publicly just to be able to fit in, right? So we're doing resolutions, and everybody feels like they need to share, or people are feeling like they're being pressured to have to share their resolutions or their goals or whatever, and people now start shying away from wanting to share this goal because they're feeling like they have to share, and yet they may not be the sharing type, right? And so it may cause some people to want to shy away from the goals to avoid having to share this embarrassing goal, like, the fact that I may want to lose a certain amount of weight, or that I may, I'm in debt and I need to save a certain amount of money. Those may not be goals that you want to share. And so, you know, choosing to kind of shy away from it as a result. Then there's the planning difficulties, right? That's a little bit of what Lily had kind of alluded to as well. People might have trouble planning the different steps towards achieving their goals. It's like, well, I want to do this, and yet I really haven't come up with an idea or way um, to move forward, right? So as I go into the next slide, before I go into the next slide, right, as far as like how are we switching this, right? What are your thoughts, guys, as far as from New Year's resolutions? What are different ways to kind of go about it that may be more um, positive, sustainable, attainable?
I can go. I like to look at it the way that you're looking at it, in terms of like these, I'm gonna knock out this one thing. I'm all about plans and specifics, and the minutia of how I'm gonna execute on that, and that it's gonna be something sustainable.
Mhm.
Right? Because I think that becomes an issue where we engage in things that, just are not sustainable. I'll give an example. Is I for Christmas I ended up getting a personal like training coach, and it just the things that you have, like I knew like that's kind of what I wanted, but just putting it into place, right, and figuring
Mhm.
out, all right, now I'm getting up at 5 in the morning, going to the gym at 5 in the morning, but I have to eat the amount of food. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even normally eat this much food, but you have to eat the food, prepare the food. And I'm like, that's not working. And where I'm succeeding, where I'm failing, and tweaking everything along the way, and like doing more research into things that, where am I falling off? Again, if I'm not prepared, I'm not prepared. The food's not there. I can go all day without coming out until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and never have walked away from my desk. And that's,
Yeah.
not great. So making sure, like, even though it's like in here, so all those little things that you do to create, sustainable changes. But just this idea without a plan, it just falls flat. And I think that's just everything. And the other part is that I try to root everything in peace, because I'm aware, I think if we go into it so fixed minded that we're not going to have a setback, that we're not going to, have this straight path where something's going to sideswipe us and try to distract. I triage and say, is this something that warrants my attention to get me off track? Or is this just a distraction? And I'm like, that's not my thing. Sorry, not me. Keep going. And just kind of keeping that level of focus. So, that it's important to be able to succeed. So I love the way you're breaking this out, because we do have to plan for all of these things, because it's just not going to be linear. And if you have that mindset, it's so hard because then you feel defeated. I don't feel defeated. I'm like, all right, well, how do I work around it? That's it.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
always Instacart. That's it. Instacart. It's my
It's
solution.
well, it's true. Well, and that's the thing, right? So if you're figuring out these are the things that if you wanted to meal prep, let's say, right? That's one of the things that you mentioned, meal prepping, that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, right? And so how do you make that easier, right? So coming up with looking for the tools and resources that actually are going to make that make sense for you, right? Is what can help. You talked about a trainer, right? So you've got some built-in accountability is what I understood or heard, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, that that adds to that pulls towards your motivation when you're not feeling motivated or when you're not wanting to do certain things, building in some accountability or building in certain things, safeguards that will allow you to continue moving forward, even when you don't want to, is really helpful. Anybody else have any thoughts around how to combat? Go ahead, Leticia.
I just want to add that the one of the biggest factors to all of this, I think, as well, is the ego that we were talking about yesterday, right? Because even with that, I was like, but I know what to do. I know how to do this. And I just had to be willing to say, I do, but let me just get someone whose line of work in, like you said, to help accountability and have a plan versus me trying to wing it, because it wasn't the most efficient way to get to the goal. So setting that aside, that, I already know how to do this, doesn't matter.
Because even if you know how to do it, right? We talked about the 3 wishes, right? I could wish to want to exercise every day, but if it's not something I do naturally, right? It's just like swimming against the current. Like I'm not going to keep doing it if I haven't figured out a way to make it in flow with what I already do, right? And so we've talked about Atomic Habits, and we've talked about some of these other books that talk about how to create micro habits and habit stacking that will allow you to kind of put activities in flow with things that you're already doing. Because otherwise, there's no way that we're going to, like, I may know what I need to do, but if it's not natural to me, doesn't come natural to me, isn't something that I'm going to sustain doing until I make it more natural, right? Until I make it in flow with the things that I do already, right? And so, hey, Jonna.
Good morning. Sorry.
Mhm.
I was going to say a lot of times, I'm a huge fan of goal setting, making commitments to myself and to others. A lot of times, kind of how Leticia was saying, like preparing yourself for what's to come and, understanding that it's not just going to be as easy as, oh, I want to lose weight. Like, oh, no. When you get to a certain age, especially for women, like it's tough to shed pounds. So it's more so like, okay, I know that I'm not going to go to the gym unless I have somebody holding me accountable. I'm going to either get an accountability partner or I'm going to get a personal trainer. I know that I don't have time to meal prep. So I'm either going to get a meal prep service or I'm going to make my meals so simple that it's
Right.
no brainer not to do it.
Right.
So, even the words around it, like you don't want to lose weight because anything that you lose, you eventually find. So you say, I want to shed pounds. So just literally everything around it, making it so painful that you don't want to not do it. Like I put my membership to my gym on auto pay. So it's not a situation of when I'm gonna pay it, it's gonna get paid every month. So it's like if it's coming out of my account and I see it's gone and I can't snatch it before it goes, then I'm getting up to go to the gym again because it's already paid for. And I'm not a fan, nor am I an advocate of wasting money. So that's just not what I'm doing.
Amen. And yet I know plenty of people that have had gone 6 months paying for a membership that they ain't used, right? So and I that's great, and I appreciate that, Jonna. Putting accountability measures in place, really important, right? To be able to allow you to do the things that you say you want to do. And so this just brings us to, right, what we've been talking about kind of throughout, right, and alluding to is, I'm not saying don't reach for anything and not goals. What I'm saying is to set SMART goals, right? Let's set specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based or time-related goals, right? Because if we can set something that's specific, we want to know, does it target a specific area for improvement? Like, what am I really trying to accomplish here, right? Is it measurable? How are you measuring your success, right? If you're wanting to lose the weight, how are we measuring that? And how are we measuring it over a period of time, right? We're not losing 20 pounds tomorrow, right? So are we losing a pound a week? Like, what does that look like? Is it reachable, right? Can I do that, right? And then is it realistic to achieve, right? We're talking about, remember we talked about creating goals that were realistic within the time frame, right? If we wanted to focus on 2024, can we achieve this in 2024? Or can we achieve this on our own? Or do we need to put in safeguards or measures like accountability partners to be able to do so? What I know for myself, and I admire those who can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go gym. That's not realistic for me right now. That just right. And so unless I put in some real serious accountability measures that will make that make sense for me, saying I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to gym is just not happening, right? And so I know that about myself, and so I know that in order to achieve this particular goal of wanting to lose weight, right, then I have to make it make sense for me. Time related, when would you achieve it by? So having a set time frame with your goals, and not just with the big goal, right? The end goal is 20-pound goal. I want to achieve 20 pounds, lose 20 pounds by the end of the year, by June, right? Like breaking it down into increments so that it's trackable and you can see progress, right? Because we want to be able to say, well, if I'm losing a pound a week, by week 2 or 3, you already know whether you're behind or on track, right? So it allows you to make those adjustments quicker and sooner so that you can continue moving forward. The same with, if you're wanting to pay off debt, being able to make that specific and measurable where you're being able to break it down. What does my budget look like? What does the debt look like? Being able to put that on a spreadsheet to say, this is what I have. This is what I'm bringing in. I can put $100 towards this debt. I can pay this one off first, right? Putting specific steps in place that will allow you to make this something that's achievable, measurable, and realistic, right? Realistic. So you can see realistically, am I going to be able to pay off this $40,000 debt this year? You may be surprised that you can, as long as you are disciplined to be able to do the activity that you say you want to do, right? If you're going to be able to, put this $100, you're going to pay this debt off and snowball the debt onto the next. That's realistic, and that gives you achievable results that you can track and monitor over time, right? Any other examples on, SMART goals or how you may be utilizing or implementing SMART goals for yourself for 2024? Because I know this group is right. You guys have already been in this group. You guys have been having the conversations. So we have goals and we have SMART goals that we're trying to achieve, right? Right.
Absolutely.
I would say something, Val.
Right.
I'm presenting tomorrow and my voice is not getting better. So hopefully it will be by tomorrow a little bit. I was going to say, so for me, when I help people goal set, the biggest thing, talking about SMART goals, I do love kind of try to hammer that home. And I find myself repeating it a lot, right? Because part of it is the specific. A lot of people, I feel like, you write a goal and it's like, it's vague or it's general, but how can you be very intentional? Like there's a difference of, let's say I want to reach, I don't know, 30 clients this week, right? Versus putting intentionality, like what days are you going to be attempting to contact those clients? How many clients a day, for example? Like get granular with it, right? And then just the time part of it, putting some type of a limit or a deadline or a date. And if that needs to adjust, that's fine. But if you kind of just keep it open ended, then it's almost harder to really achieve it, right? Because you could just keep pushing it back. Like even if it's the gym,
Right.
well, I'll get started next week, right? Versus if I have the intention of losing a pound a week, I think you said, right? Then I
Yeah.
need to be actively working towards that every week. Versus if I'm like, I'm just gonna lose 20 pounds this year. All right, well, that's cool. If I don't start next week, I can start in a couple weeks or whatever the case is. I'll still be able to hit my goal.
Right.
So really being
Right.
very intentional around, right, being very specific as much as possible, and then putting like a deadline, a time frame. I think is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Josie. Yeah. So like one of the tools that some people use are using specific time related challenges. So I'm going to do a 30-day challenge, a 60-day challenge, a 90-day challenge, because what we know is that habits get created over time, right? On average, 66 days by research says takes anywhere between 30 to 90 days, on average about 66 days to actually create a sustainable habit. And so, um, you know, Josie talked about reaching 30 clients a week. Well, can we do that over the course of a 60-day, right, challenge every week that we're going and we're reaching our 30 clients? Now, if we are able to do that within this measurable time frame, at least, right? Then we know that if we can do it for 60 days, we can do it for another 60 days. And we can extrapolate that out and extend that out, and right. Um, Other things that people are doing are, even for, can I, for instance, for myself, right, wanting to lose weight, but make it something that's long-term sustainable. So um, I am doing a 10-day detox for the beginning of the year. Very short, very measurable, right? That I can do, achievable, realistic for me. But it starts off, like Najee said, like it starts me off after the holidays and the new year, starts me off in the right frame of mind, and with better habits on eating cleaner, right? So that way I can extrapolate and move on for the rest of the year too. So it helps kind of give me that boost to start off, and increasing dopamines, because I'm now closer to a result that I want. And so those are all different things that you can use, right, to help with achieving realistic long-term sustainable goals. So Lily, you talked about wanting to have, having goals and having things you wanted to do, right? Take a look at the things that you say you wanted to accomplish. Can you put it in a framework that of this SMART, right? Can you make it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time related, right? So, and taking something small, right? That's another thing that people a downfall for folks, right? We have all these things we want to do, right? We talked about the one thing already. What's the one thing? What's the one goal that you can achieve that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? That if you focus on this one goal, that the rest of your life, or the rest of the things that you're already trying to do, that you're already been doing, are going to be better, right? Are going to serve better by doing it. So pick that goal, Lily, that you want to achieve, that you feel like you want it, and really sit down with it, and how can I make it specific, right? This big goal that, I can break it down, make it specific and measurable and achievable.
Yes, will do. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right. Anything else that
Valerie?
anybody wants to add or share? Yeah.
Valerie, just quickly, as I'm listening to all of this, and I apologize, I'm trying to digest everything everyone's saying. It's good information. Sorry, I've been away for a while, and sorry for jumping on late because
Oh,
you
it's
may have
good to
already
hear you.
discussed. You may have already discussed what I'm about to say, and so I think, I mean, it's great. We want, and I keep hearing that word, we want. But the question is, one, what do we need? And two, why do we need it in the first place? And I don't know, you may have already addressed this, but why are we even doing what we say we want to do? And who's going to suffer if we don't follow through? And so one of the things that's interesting about us as humans, mostly, or most of us, I think, is we'll do things for others that is painful to us. We rarely, seldom ever do things for ourselves that we feel a little pain, right? And so we'll go out of our way for our children, for our families, for our customers, we'll bend over backwards for them and suffer much pain for them to get the outcomes that they want. Very seldom do we do that for ourselves. Once we feel pain, we drop off. But when we start thinking about why we're doing these things in the first place and who's going to suffer, I mean, that's a whole different kind of mindset. And the truth is, we're the ones who suffer. We don't follow through on our goals or dreams. We're the ones who suffer. We don't want anybody else to suffer, so we'll suffer pain for them. But once we feel a little bit of pain about what we want, then we back off very quickly. It doesn't matter if you have SMART goals or not. The reality is, you know, you got to have it. They always talk about having a big why, but you know, why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, maybe you're losing weight because you want to be more healthy. Maybe you want to lose weight because you don't want to have a heart attack and you want to see your kids grow up and get married, right? Maybe there's got to be a why there. Somebody's going to suffer. And most importantly, we suffer when we don't follow through on our goals and objectives. So I just wanted to interject that. I mean, I appreciate everything else that was being said, but I want to add that piece to the puzzle.
No, and I very much appreciate that because it is a piece and a component that we did not get into today, because creating the goals has to come from a why, right? And the why has to be strong enough to be able to take you through the days that suck, right? The days that you just don't feel like you want to do what you say you want to do, right? I had a friend who, he's like, I hate running, but I get on this treadmill every single day, and it's because I want to be able to see my grandchildren, right? I want to live to 90 and I want to be able to see my grandchildren grow up. And so that's what he uses as the motivation to get him to do the thing that he doesn't want to do to stay in shape. And that's exactly it, Edwin. It's, wanting to make sure that others don't suffer, right? And so doing it, figuring out what you can do for yourself, but also how it impacts the people around you may be the thing that somebody needs to be able to move forward, even when they don't want to. So I appreciate you interjecting that because I think that's really powerful and important for us to keep in mind, right? These goals can't just be for the sake of reaching a goal. I'm not going to do 100 transactions just for the sake of doing 100 transactions. There has to be impact around that, right? There has to be people, and for me, just like you've said, Edwin, there has to be other people that are impacted because of or as a result of that. Otherwise, it's just a number for me, right? So I think that's a great place and a great way to end our conversation for today, as you guys are heading into 2024 and planning out what you want to do, why you want to do what you want to do, and what are the SMART goals that you want to create around those to do it, right? So thank you all for sharing and for participating today in today's conversation.
Thanks, Val.
My pleasure. And tomorrow, hopefully, Josie. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Val.
Hopefully, Josie, you'll be able to talk, and if not, you reach out to me. And the conversations around your word for the year, right? Which is a conversation I enjoy as well. So I look forward to tomorrow and seeing you guys, and you guys have a wonderful day. Okay? Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Have a great day, Val.